Welcome to Soccer Talk, a podcast about soccer, mostly in Iowa, presented by Kick It Forward. Kick It Forward is a positive disruptor to the Iowa soccer community.
Thanks to our sponsors, Scott Insurance Services and Michael Keener, Attorney at Law. You need legal help, you need insurance help, those are the two to contact.
That's right. Welcome to the show. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Iowa soccer supporters. I'm Ben Brackett with my good buddy and co-host Blake Sievers. Siebes, what's up, man?
Hey, Ben, it's a little weird getting back into this podcast deal. It's been quite a while since we've done the last one, isn't it?
I know I've been getting a hard time from people on Sundays at soccer asking what the deal is, why we haven't been after it. So
We're back.
We're back. Woo! All right. So we're going to try and be a little bit more regular now with with some sort of like weekly, like regular release, right, Siebes?
Yeah, and soccer's kind of starting up for a lot of people.
Yeah, some people at least.
Yeah, some is a better way. Maybe.
Yeah. So we're hoping to kind of get back into game of the week. The NAI season is in full swing here soon enough, and so that gives us a couple of Iowa teams, a few different Iowa teams that we can follow. We're going to maybe check out a little Union Omaha game here in a few weeks. It'll be pretty exciting.
Yeah, so everybody should hopefully stay tuned.
That's right. Today we're doing a little interview though, right?
We are.
One that I think is pretty cool, actually. Probably one of our bigger gets in reality. Maybe not a lot of people have heard of her, but as far as playing experience goes and the types of things that she's done, I think that probably one of our top few guests.
Yeah, and there's always an Iowa connection.
Absolutely.
Isn't there that
of course.
We'll talk a little bit about.
It's because we're Soccer Talk. What's the Iowa connection, Siebes?
Well, remember, she, they have to live here, or
Yes.
they have to listen, but I
That's
kind of
true.
spilled that she lived here, but you guys will have to listen to find out
That's a good point.
why and where she actually played some soccer here in Des Moines within the last 12 to 24 months. So
Even less than that, probably.
yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's just get to it. So we're chatting today with Katie Naughton of the Houston Dash. Thanks to Lindsay Horner for kind of connecting us, and hope you guys enjoy the interview. Welcome, Katie Naughton, to the podcast. Hi, Katie. How are you?
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm doing well.
Awesome. Have you done any research for this podcast? Have you listened to any episodes?
I have not. I'm sorry. I've been on vacation for the last couple of weeks, so I haven't really done any research on anything.
Vacation's a perfect time to listen to a podcast.
That's true. But
Well, no, the only reason we always ask that because Blake asks the same question every single time to start us off. So we'll go ahead and let him do that, and go from there.
All right, Katie, is this the first time you've ever been on a podcast?
this is not the first time I've ever been on a podcast.
Can
All
you
right.
elaborate a little bit? Like how many have you been on? What ones?
I've been on 2 podcasts. I did the corn-fed coaching when I was in Des Moines, and then I also did one recently out in Houston. So I can't remember the name of it. It's so bad of me, but it was with Jen Cooper. I know that much. So
Very cool. So you'll be a calm customer. We probably won't be able to rally you. Sometimes we get first timers on here and we get them going a little bit. But so normally we'd have you start off by telling us sort of like your origin story and stuff. But usually we're talking to people from Iowa. So why don't we go backwards and just talk about a little bit regarding your most recent exploits. So you played for the Houston Dash, and you guys just kind of made history as the first pro sports league going back to live sports in the pandemic era, and then you guys won the tournament. So maybe just tell us a little bit about it, and we'll kind of dig in from there.
yeah. So obviously when season first started and we were in preseason, we were planning on having a normal season and everything. And then obviously under the circumstances with COVID, things changed. So we were just in preseason for about 2 months, and things got scaled back to household trainings and then group trainings. And finally we were able to go into team trainings. But at that point, we still didn't know if we were even going to have any semblance of a season. So we were kind of holding our breath, hoping that something was going to, happen. And luckily, our commissioner and the league decided on a tournament style season for us. So we trained for about a month before, and that was like our second preseason. Then we got into Utah, which is where all of the teams came together for this tournament. And we were inside a bubble, which was pretty wild, but we did really well. We got tested about every 3 or 4 days, and nobody tested positive the entire time, which is a really great milestone. And then obviously we got to play some games. So that was really awesome. We were playing, our first game was against Utah, which was the host. Then we played, who did we play? Rain, and then Sky Blue and Washington. So those were our 4 bracket games. And then after that, we had elimination games. So we were able to obviously make it. Every team made it into the playoffs for this, but we were able to make it through. And then we played 3 elimination games, made it to the finals, and we won. So it was really exciting. It was my first year with the Dash, and we actually beat my former team, which was the Chicago Red Stars, in the final. So that was just a little bit of a cherry on top.
Awesome. Well, that's a great segue. We'll definitely come back to the being in the bubble and learn a little bit more about that experience. But so you're originally from Chicago, right?
Yeah, I'm from Chicago.
Okay, so give us the origin story. So tell us a little bit about where you grew up playing. I know you're repping your Fighting Irish sweatshirt. So we know you went to Notre Dame, but maybe just kind of walk us through that. And I won't spoil the story. I suppose I'll let you tell us.
Okay. So, I'm from Chicago. I was raised around the Elk Grove Village area in the northwest suburbs. So the reason I actually got started in soccer was kind of by happenstance. I was at an after-school program in kindergarten, and one of my friends, she came to the same program and had cleats with her. And I was like, oh my gosh, what are those? Like, I'd never really seen them before. And she told me she had soccer practice after, and I was like, wow, like those are cool cleats, like can I try them? So I walked around in them, and I just thought they were the coolest thing ever. And I went home that night, and I was like, hey Mom, I have to get a pair of soccer cleats, we're going. So she ultimately caved and got me a pair of cleats, and then I had to put me in soccer. So that's how it all started. And then I played rec like every other little kid, and from there I actually decided to try out for a boys travel team. And I was with that team for 6 years. So up until around 6th, 7th grade, I played with the boys team. I was the only girl.
What team was that, Katie, or what club?
It was the Storm travel team, the Elk Grove Storm.
I've never heard of them, have you?
No, but I love that. I mean, very rarely are you finding young ladies playing with the young guys these days. But back when we were growing up, I think we're good 10 years older than you, Katie, but there are a handful of girls that would play with the boys, and it seemed like that set them on a pretty steep trajectory. Those were the girls that were playing D1 and really pushing the envelope. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. So I think that definitely helps my development. I mean, the boys are always so competitive, and especially being the only girl, they wanted to beat me in everything, and I just wasn't going to let that happen. So it was a really great way for me to learn about mental toughness and getting that competitive edge at an early age. So then from there,
did you always play in the back? Sorry.
No, I didn't. So I kind of was all over. I did end up kind of solidifying my spot as a sweeper when we still did the sweeper stopper formation. But I did kind of play all over. I played on the wing. I played in the midfields. Sometimes I make runs up, had a really long throw in back then. But so those are some really fun memories. I'm still friends with a bunch of those guys too. So I'm really grateful that they kind of embraced me and took me in as one of their own. So then after that, I did ultimately decide to go play for a club team, a girls team. So in the Chicagoland area, there's a few, and the one that I decided to go with was Sockers FC. So I was with them for the rest of my club days. So I was up with them for, I guess that would be another 6 years I was with them. And it was really great. I got to meet, a bunch of new friends, and they really did help in my development and got me exposure to some college coaches and then some youth national team coaches and stuff like that. So that was really awesome. And all through that time.
Sorry, Katie, can you just drop some names of who you played with? I mean, it's funny. Chicago's a big area, and you guys have produced some big time players. Is there anybody that would be recognizable that you played with or against at Soccers?
Girls, boys, both.
All the above.
All the above. Okay. I never played with her, but Jen Buskowski is a pretty big name. She also went to the same high school and played for Soccers, but she's a few years older than me. Some girls that are still playing that I am friends with: Kelly Hubley, Crystal Thomas, Sarah Gordon. Like, those are some of the girls that I am friends with and like still play with and against. And then some of the boys that have come through there.
These are girls you grew up like playing club soccer with?
Correct. And we're all still playing pro.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. Who else? Some of the boys, I know, I don't know his first name, but his last name is Mueller. He plays on Orlando. He was at Soccers.
Oh, he's a former Menace guy. Chris,
yeah. He was at Orlando. I don't know where he is now. But yeah. Who else? I think McBride came through Soccers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We used to play against Soccers all the time. I hated it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I suppose who'd you used to play against from Iowa? Do you ever remember playing any teams from Iowa back in the day?
I know we did, because we went to Muscatine all the time to play in tournaments. So
when you went, so basically what you're saying is you just
smashed them,
beat them. Yeah. Smashed them. Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly can't remember the names of the teams that we played from Iowa, but we did play the teams.
How did you end up getting recruited to play for Notre Dame?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, we had a bunch of different college tournaments and stuff, or like showcase tournaments, I guess, and they had been there for most of them. And I just got recruited by them and a couple other schools, and I went on my visit, and I just fell in love with the place. I mean, I had always had Notre Dame in the back of my mind growing up because it's close. It has, a really prestigious academic curriculum, and then the soccer was also really renowned as well. I mean, they had won the national championship the year that I actually went to visit. So
you essentially you were going to showcases to get seen. That's really interesting, because now when we talk to college bound kids, they're getting seen by going to these like one-day camps or these little one-off deals. It's just interesting, and it's interesting that it's changed in the last 10 years. For us,
yeah.
I mean, we're pretty old, so it makes sense. But how early on did you commit? So a lot of the girls we're hearing, they're committing like, sophomore year.
I think for me it was the end of it was the beginning of my junior year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a little later.
Beginning of my junior year. Yeah, I think I was 15 or 16 at the time. Yeah, so a little later. But I played other sports, not just soccer. I played basketball. I ran cross country. So I was spread pretty thin, but by my sophomore year, I had decided I was going to stick primarily to soccer. So I kind of cut those other sports out just because I knew soccer was probably going to give me the best options moving forward in terms of, scholarships and opportunities. So that was kind of the turning point for my soccer career, I think.
So I'm curious, like Ben said, the landscape has changed a little bit, but do you have any advice for these young kids that are kind of just whether they're 8th grade freshmen, kind of getting into the process? Any advice for them to what you wish you would have done differently, what you're happy you did? Any kind of recommendations?
Yeah, I'm really happy that I went on and visited the schools. I think you get a real great feel for not just the campus itself, but the soccer program and the community and kind of family that you're going to be with for the next 4 years. So I would highly recommend actually visiting those schools and spending some time with them and asking the girls on the team questions. I mean, the coaches are obviously going to tell you the best parts of those schools, but you get the real feel when you really start to talk to the girls and the teammates, or your future teammates, hopefully one day, about what it's like to be a part of, a certain program. So that's probably my biggest piece of advice.
And I mean, Ben, can you jump ahead to like the national team just to figure out how, because you had some youth national team caps. I want to talk about that experience and how you first kind of entered the pool and whatnot.
Yeah. So like I said, throughout these college showcase tournaments, a bunch of national team scouts were also there. But I actually kind of got involved with that via ODP. So I was in ODP probably around the same time I started playing for Sockers, and I made the state team, then got to the regional team, and then from there, obviously, made it into the youth national team program. And I started at the U14-15 age group, where they have the really large pool of girls that go to Palo Alto. I think there was like 100 of us there. So they kind of whittle you down at that stage. And luckily, I would continue to go up with the ages. So I was in the U15, U17. I played up a year for a bit, U18, U20, and then U23. So I was kind of through the ranks, which was really cool. And I was a part of the U20 World Cup team that played in Canada for the U20 World Cup in 2014. So that was another really great milestone in my career, and played with some of the best players my age, which was wild. And they're still playing on the national team, like Rose Lavelle, Lindsay Horan, Andy Sullivan, like they're all on that team. So pretty humbling to be a part of that group.
So you're a center back. You've got some competition in that area of the field. What, are you still trying to break in the full squad? Is that on your like kind of bucket list, or what's the thought there?
Yeah, I think ultimately I would love to get a call in to the national team, the full team, just to see, you know, how I stack up against the best players in the world. And I obviously get to play against them in the NWSL, but it's one thing to play against them one game every few weeks or every few months, but another thing to actually be in the mix and, you know, grinding with them day in and day out. So I think that would be a really great test for me, and to see, you know, where I truly stack up.
You're still young.
Yeah, still got time.
And it feels,
For sure.
correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like on the men's side, they have a lot of camps that they bring new people into, just with the European season and MLS season kind of during some of these off seasons. Do they do that on the women's side, where they're incorporating a lot of new faces? Like on the men's side, the January camp is usually when a lot of younger guys or uncapped players get invites to camp. How's the women's side work?
Yeah, traditionally speaking, I think it's fairly similar. The January camp is notorious for bringing in new players, and it's also known as being one of the tougher camps because they do a lot of their fitness testing then, or they have, but I don't know what it's going to be like in this new world we're living in. So I'm just, you know, obviously hoping for some recognition and hopefully to get a call in, but I do know a bunch of players that I've played with and I'm friends with that have gotten called in and have kind of been in and out. So they do try and look for new talent, and I think our league is a good pool of players to look at, but they're also looking at, you know, the phenoms that are coming out of college and players that are overseas that have American citizenship and all that too.
Well, hopefully your success just recently will, you know, maybe get you on the map a little quicker.
Yeah.
So we had a couple fan questions.
For the first time ever.
Yeah, for sure. But I need to just ask a couple of them while we're on this sort of topic of like playing against the top players and stuff. So it's like, who's the best striker you've ever had to defend? I imagine there's probably a long list of good ones, but who's the toughest?
Ooh. Honestly, I mean, she's very versatile, so she can kind of play several different positions, but probably Crystal Dunn. She's on the North Carolina Courage. She plays, like I said, a variety of positions, but when she is...
Well, for the national team, she's like a wingback, isn't she?
Yeah, she plays outside back for the
Yeah.
national team, but in our league, she plays like the 10, she plays the 11, she plays the 9, like she's all over.
Sure.
But she's so agile and quick, and she knows how to run with the ball at her feet, so it's really hard to defend her.
Yeah, and I don't know if it looks like that you might be like a taller defender.
Yeah.
Blake and I are also taller defenders, so those small tricky players are always the worst.
Yep.
Yeah, we weren't the quickest. We weren't the quickest where we've been in our day.
No. My worst was backward. You know, going backwards to turning and chasing. That was so slow. Another question that we got was just, you know, like in the, you know, being in the tournament, did you guys have like a tactical plan to target you on set pieces? That was another fan question. We're going deep here.
Well,
that's a good question. Wow. No, there wasn't a plan to target me. I mean, we had runs that we were making, to try and get into the spaces, but I think we were more so targeting areas, and whoever got to those spaces first was in the best position to score. So, yeah.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Tell us a little bit more about being in the bubble and being down in Utah. What was that all
and
about?
Can you start, sorry to interrupt, but can you start how you guys got there? I mean, did you charter a private plane, so you started in a bubble, or how'd that work?
So
start from the beginning of the bubble. The beginning of the bubble.
Okay, so like the week leading up to us leaving, they wanted us to kind of create our own bubble at home where we like only leave to get gas or grocery shopping. And even if you could get grocery shopping delivered, like that'd be ideal, because they just didn't want us exposed at all. And we had been getting tested for weeks leading up to this to make sure that we were still in the negative, in the clear. So by the time that we actually did leave, we did charter a plane. So it was just us on the plane, but we had to go through security with the rest of the population. So we were just taking extra precaution to make sure that we got through quickly and efficiently and weren't exposed for more than we needed to be. Yeah, so we chartered there, then we get there, get tested immediately, and then head back to our hotel, which was where we would ultimately be for the next month, and really wouldn't leave unless it was for training or games or walks around the hotel. So we pretty much stayed inside. It was really weird, to be honest. I mean, we made the best of it. We brought a lot of board games. We brought a lot of snacks. We had one person, our team admin, that was allowed to leave and get snacks and stuff or food and come back. But other than that, like, we weren't allowed to do anything. So it was different, but like I said, we made the best of it, and you got to know people, and we had little tournaments of our own with ping pong and just little games and stuff. So
were you in a bubble like with the whole league, or was it were you kind of like, just secluded within your squad?
So it was mostly the team. So they didn't want intermixing within the teams. So each team had their own floor, and we were on the 4th floor. So if you saw another team in the elevator, like, you were supposed to wait for the next elevator to come and not go with them. So they were pretty strict about it. They gave us all these hand sanitizer wipes and all these things to make sure that we were wiping things down and cleaning our hotel rooms. And yeah, it was intense.
I can't imagine that. Like, how many days were you guys in the bubble?
31.
It's like, what were you guys doing to like have fun? I mean, you got to be doing something other than just playing ping pong.
Yeah, we did. Like I said, we did the ping pong tournament. They had
like a beer pong tournament or something.
Sure. Actually, we didn't have a beer pong tournament, but we did have they had like bags and stuff. So we had like a barbecue a couple of times. We like brought in our own food, had a barbecue. They did like provide some drinks for us, like, to let loose and just let us actually be humans.
Did you have to request that from the admin? Like, hey, I want did you have to request like certain liquor and beer from the admin?
We asked if we could. We're like, hey, can we get this? And he's like, okay, like, our coach was like on board. He was the one that was kind of pushing for it. He's like, yeah, I'm as much in the bubble as you guys are. So
yeah, well, I think that's funny. I was talking to I have a buddy that's was down in the MLS bubble, and he was just joking that, like, somebody just kind of rolls up with a 30-pack of Coors Light and just stuck it in his fridge, and he was good.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's like, okay, like, can we get this? And he was like, sure. But it really all, like, we let really loose after we won, obviously. Like, Budweiser was our sponsor, so they had like all of the beer and alcohol that you could ever want. So that was an experience.
Yeah, you guys made a little splash on social media there.
We did, yeah. So after, yeah, it was pretty fun though. I'd never been a part of anything like that. That was like my first major win of anything, so it was really cool to experience and be a part of,
Yeah, that's really cool. Any good stories from that? Like, at least PG-13 stories that are pretty funny from that day?
We only have like 5 listeners, so you can pretty much share it whatever you want, Katie.
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think.
Maybe she doesn't remember any, Ben.
I remember. Sorry, go ahead.
No, nope. I wanted you to go ahead.
Oh, okay. I just remember being so thirsty after the game. Like, I wanted water, but I couldn't find water anywhere. And then we had to go up to the podium to get our medals and everything. And then we're all celebrating. And I'm like, all right, time to go to the locker room. I'm like, sweet, let's go. I'm like, I'm going to get water. And then we get in there and it's literally just beer. Bud Heavies. That's the thing too. It wasn't even Bud Light. Like, nobody that I know, like, drinks Bud Heavies, but that's all they had for us. So I was like, all right, screw it. Like, guess this is what we're drinking. And I was drunk after 2 beers.
Yeah.
Because I was so dehydrated. Yeah,
nothing
so
wrong with that.
No, it was so funny, though. And then, yeah, people were just being ridiculous, like, drinking out of the cup, obviously. And then just, like, I'm surprised that thing hasn't been broken yet, to be honest with you. But
it looked like it was getting treatment.
It was. It really was, yeah. Oh, Shay Groom. So Shay Groom, she went to Texas A&M, and she had never properly done her ring dunk before. So it's like a tradition, I guess.
What's a ring dunk?
Yeah, it's a tradition, an Aggie tradition, where you're supposed to, once you get a ring, which means you completed so many hours as an athlete or whatever. I don't really know the whole thing behind it, but you get this ring, and in order to, like, be worthy of it, you have to do a ring dunk where you throw it at the bottom of a pitcher of beer and then you chug it, and then you chug it until you get the ring at the bottom. Nice. And then you're like, yeah. So she had never done it, so we're like, Shay, you have to do your ring dunk in the Challenge Cup trophy. So she's like, okay, and it made Sports Center.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. Yeah.
So your path to the Houston Dash was kind of interesting, at least from what I read. So you, it sounded like you got drafted to Chicago, your hometown team, but then pretty quickly got loaned out.
For Australia, I think.
Correct. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. So tell us about, so like that must have been like super exciting to get drafted to your hometown squad. You're like, oh, I'm going home. It'll be great. And then I don't know if that was part of the plan, or if you were excited to go to Australia, or if you were more like, oh, man, okay, here we go. So tell us just a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, so like you said, I got drafted in 2016 by Chicago, which, like you said, again, was really exciting. I was home, basically, had all my friends and family around me to support me. And I didn't play too much that season. I got in a bunch of games at the end, but I didn't start at all. Like, I wasn't consistent with getting minutes, but it was a good first year. I learned a lot about myself and, you know, what it takes to be a professional athlete. So after that, though, in the off season, I was actually looking for places where I could go play and get game experience, because I knew that would be beneficial moving forward. And this opportunity in Australia kind of fell in my lap. I actually got a message on Facebook from a girl on one of the teams in the W League asking if I wanted to come to Australia because they needed a center back. And I was like, hell yeah, sign me up. I'll go to Australia. So, yeah, so that was how that happened with the loan to Adelaide. So I played in Adelaide for that season, came back to Chicago, and we had our preseason tournament in Portland, and I kind of kicked ass in the tournament, kind of just because of the game experience that I had built up. And then the next 2 seasons, I was a consistent starter for Chicago. And I had gone back to Adelaide in there, and then I actually went to Perth for the 3rd time I went back over. So
were you going like just a while? So a lot of the women do that where they almost play for like 2 teams so they can play longer during the year. Is that essentially what you're doing?
So yeah, I was playing year round for the most part. I would have like a couple of weeks off maybe. But I think you're getting loaned out, so you're not getting paid obviously by both teams, because that can't happen. You're on 2 different contracts. But yeah, it's just so that you're staying game fit, getting game experience, and just staying healthy and sharp, I guess. But that does take a toll as well, because I had done basically 7 seasons back to back and didn't give myself a break mentally or physically. So this last off season, I was like, you know what, I'm going to not do anything, just give my body a time to reset, both mentally and physically. And it was great. I was in Des Moines, and my boyfriend was coaching out there. So it was great to spend some time with him, because I don't get to see him very often. And I got to meet a lot of new people, which was really awesome, and play pickup on Tuesday and Thursday mornings with a bunch of people. I think you were there a couple of times, Ben. So yeah, so that was really neat, just to, kind of do something different.
Right on. So now what's next after, so the tournament, you won the tournament, there must be a little bit of an off season. When does the next season start? Or I guess I've seen in the news some of like the high profile, U.S. national team women are taking off to go overseas to play, kind of do what you were talking about doing, to go play for like maybe 6 months or so before the next season. Is that right?
Yeah. So we're not sure exactly what's next. We have to be back in market for the next 2 months. So I go back to Houston this Saturday, and we're there for 2 months in a training environment, but we don't know if that includes games or what. So we're waiting to hear, on that front. But after that, I think October 17th is the deadline, and then we have the off season until hopefully late February, which is when our normal preseason would start to kick off.
So maybe a little bit of a break.
Yeah, kind of a big break. It would be more than we have had in a while.
Can we go back just a little bit about just talk about being traded and how that kind of transpired, and just mentally with that, if it was a good thing, bad thing? Talk about that a little bit.
At the end of last season with Chicago, we made the finals, and I played in that game, but I hadn't been playing consistently at the end of that season for a variety of reasons, but I just wasn't playing well, and I wasn't, starting. So unfortunately, one of our other center backs got injured at the training before the final, and I kind of got thrown in. We ended up losing pretty horribly, not because of me, but just as it happened. And then I knew at that point that I needed something different, but I didn't request a trade. I wasn't asking for one. I just kind of knew moving forward that something was going to have to give, and I had a feeling that I was going to be involved in that. So come January, I get a phone call from the head coach of Chicago, and it's, he's basically telling me, hey, like, we're going to trade you to Houston, and this is why we think it's going to be a good fit for you, all these things. And initially I was actually pretty excited because, like I said, it was going to be a clean slate, a new chapter, an opportunity for me to grow and develop in a different environment with a different coach and different teammates and stuff like that. No hard feelings for Chicago, but I think that's where people do the best growing, is when they're in a comfortable situation. So I think it was a good thing in hindsight, and obviously we did really well in the tournament. So I was pretty grateful, to be honest. Yeah.
What's it like, just like living in a place like Houston? Gosh, I guess I didn't really think about that too. You've been in Australia where, there were the wildfires. Houston had Katrina, but your hometown is Chicago. So what's it like to, essentially relocate into a traumatized community? That must be a weird thing, but also probably pretty cool when you've got somebody like a successful squad that, hopefully is like bringing the community together a little bit.
Yeah. So Houston has recovered for the most part from Harvey and stuff, but I think there are.
Oh, Harvey, that's right. I called it Katrina. My bad.
That's okay.
That's showing my age. That's showing my age a little bit, unfortunately. Because Katrina was like 10, 15 years ago when I was in college.
Yeah.
When I was in college. Whoops.
But there are still some hard hit areas for sure. But I think getting there, just seeing how welcoming and how kind everyone was to me being there as a part of the team, especially the organization itself, was really awesome to see. And I felt like I was somewhere that I was valued and cherished. So that was really awesome to be welcomed in that way. And then the community outreach that we've done just shows how far our fans spread throughout the community. So when we were in the bubble, people were buying us coffees and buying us meals, and it was just really awesome to know that they were doing that for us because they were inspired by our success. So we wanted to kind of give that back to them by winning the whole thing in dedication to the city. So I think that was really powerful, and I hope that they realize that we did that for them.
What do you what are you doing outside of training? Are you guys do you girls do any of you guys coach? Do you how do you guys stay involved, if at all?
Yeah, we have a few girls on our team that are involved in coaching. They have some of their own teams and stuff, so they're always busy. For me, I like to get involved in the community, so I do stuff with Special Olympics. I do stuff with MD Anderson, which is the hospital in our community, and just other little things here and there. But I think most of us try and get involved in some way. I'm not exactly sure what everyone does, but for the most part, I think everyone does do something.
This is kind of a good segue, I think. Something we talk about with a lot of people is just that, like, their transition from being a soccer player to whatever's next. Sometimes, like, in my case or in Blake's case, it's like the end of our college careers where you're trying to kind of figure out how that works. Sometimes it's somebody in their high school career. Sometimes it's an injury. Sometimes it's, you're in your situation, you're a pro, or like, my buddy that's still playing, he's like 37 and he's trying to figure out, like, what do I do next? So from what I read, it sounds like you're, at least you were academically inclined and you did well in school. And if you went to Notre Dame, you most likely were a decent student. So I can't imagine you plan to just retire and just hang around the house or, whatever. So do you have thoughts on, like, how you transition, or are you just, at this point, you're just thinking, how long can I keep playing and I'll worry about that later?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely thought about life after soccer because, like you said, you can't play forever, whatever the circumstances are. Luckily, I was a pretty good student, so I did, get an understanding of what it would take to be a professional outside of soccer. But right now, I mean, I do obviously want to play until I can't anymore, but I am really interested in probably going back to school, getting my master's or graduate degree in something related to forensics. I studied anthropology and Spanish, so if I could marry anthropology and forensics together, that would be ideal, and then get into something involved with that or related to that. So that's kind of
You're not going to be in the booth. You're not going to be a pundit in the booth or on the sideline coaching or anything.
I don't think so. I mean, I love getting involved in coaching with, the young kids or in the community, but I just don't see that as a long-term thing for myself. Yeah, that's just a personal thing, but yeah.
Oh, it's interesting. So your boyfriend, he's a hockey coach,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of want to, like, stay, it sounds like, as far away from coaching as you can. That's interesting.
He actually just stopped coaching. So,
okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I do enjoy coaching, and there are parts of it that I love, but I've seen the other side of it as well that I'm not so interested in. So, yeah, for me,
talk to me about the marriage of anthropology and forensics, and your you said something about Spanish in there. So what's that even look like? You're just going to research for the rest of your life?
I mean, kind of. There is a branch called forensic anthropology. So you can actually,
I believe that.
Yeah, so you can do that, and it's involved with, like, crimes and stuff. I love true crime and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of is involved with all that. And Spanish is just a supplementary major that I took. So, I mean, it's not really related, but it could help in the long run. Yeah.
Well, before you started talking about forensics and you were just talking about anthropology and Spanish, I was like, there's got to be some sort of, like, soccer connection in there that you could bring in.
There could be, for sure. Yeah. I mean, the reason sorry, go ahead.
So you're gonna be soccer player turned, like, CSI investigator.
Kind of. I mean, we have talked to like, our team when we were in our home bubbles, like when we were in Houston still before heading to the bubble in Utah. Our team set up these meetings with different people just to kind of get us out of our own little worlds. And we had an FBI agent, a CIA agent, an Olympic gold medal winner, and, like, all these different people just to kind of see the path that they took and, like, how it all kind of can relate back to sport. So it was interesting just to see the different pathways that are available to people after soccer.
Blake Blake's original major was criminology.
Yeah,
Really?
I took an anthropology course, and I ended up with sociology, which does you so many wonders if you don't go back to school.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I like sociology as well. My boyfriend actually studied that at school, so we kind of have very interesting conversations about anthropology, sociology, and those kinds of topics, and how they relate and what they're different, or how they're different and stuff like that.
It must be a hoot. It sounds like you guys
Oh,
play.
yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic we have.
Hilarious.
Well, here's my one last question kind of on that note, Ben. Will you talk just briefly about how much the mental side of it played a part in the bubble, with how different, I'm assuming, I guess I don't know, I would assume it was a lot different in the bubble, and what role the coach played in that, or do you guys even have a team psychologist, and how different it was than a normal month, I guess, of the regular season?
Yeah.
I love the way he asked that. Do you even have a team psychologist?
No, I assume you do, but I don't know.
We have access to one. They didn't come with us, but the league also provided a league psychologist if you wanted access to one. So that was good, because they did take into consideration the mental health aspect of being in a bubble for so long, which is great. But yeah, it was definitely a grind. I mean, there's days where you didn't want to be by anybody, but you didn't have that choice really. So you had to kind of push yourself through those times. And luckily our team gets along well enough to the point where, you could understand when people were going through a difficult period of time and, kind of leave them to their own devices. But at the end of the day, we were really welcoming when they came back into the group and were ready to, open up about whatever they were struggling with or dealing with. Because obviously, just like any other season, there's going to be times where players are upset because they're not playing, or they feel like they're underperforming, or all the different factors that come into deciding, who plays and who doesn't. So luckily our coach acknowledged that and understood the difficulties and was able to cater to it in a way that didn't create a divisive environment for the team.
I bet you that a women's locker room is a lot more open than a men's locker room as far as like conversations about that stuff.
Probably. Probably. Yeah.
Last question from me, and then this is just random, but you mentioned the coach, and I think just like overall, it seems like generally speaking, there's still probably more men coaching women than women coaching women, which we're not going to talk about that part of it, but just what's it like? I don't know who your coach is now, but do you have like a preference for coaching, somebody, a female coach or a male coach, or have you always played for one or the other? Or?
I don't have a preference based on gender. I think, as long as whoever is coaching can do the job well, then doesn't matter, but sure. I think throughout the majority of my career, I have had male coaches. I have had female coaches at every level as well, though. So, yeah, it's just basically based on, talent and if they're good or not. I don't really have a preference in terms of gender in that regard.
Well, yeah, I just wonder sometimes if like a male coach would be like savvy enough. I don't know, but hopefully they would be, but just to be like, hey, we probably want to have somebody here to talk to the team and just like make sure that we're all good. I could just see, I've had plenty of, I've only had male coaches, and I don't know, I can't see any of those guys maybe thinking like that.
Yeah, I think, so this is our head coach, James Clarkson. This is his second year with this squad. And before he had coached boys in the academy system. So I think last year was a really big learning curve for him from what I've been told, because I wasn't here, so I can't speak to that. But from what I've been told, it was a really big learning curve for him. And I think he is much more attuned to what it takes to coach a women's team and the little nuances that go along with that. So I think he was well aware of, the struggles that we were facing. And we have a little leadership group too that he would talk to and kind of bounce ideas off of to see if it would be a good fit to do this or not. And I think he did a really good job of, making it so that everyone felt comfortable in this kind of environment.
I lied. I got one last question then. You can only answer this in 2 words.
Oh boy. Okay.
Who's the best coach you've had?
Ooh. Ever? Probably growing up. Sorry, not 2 words. Oleg Vatchev. He was my soccer's coach.
Okay.
For a long time. So I probably learned the most under him.
Say the name one more time.
Oleg Vatchev.
Okay.
Yeah. So funnily enough, he coached boys until he had our team. And it was a really rough transition at first. Like the first year, he did not understand how we were different from the boys. So finally though, like he started to understand, like, there are some differences, there are some nuances. And by the end of the time that we were with him, he loved us and he was amazing. So that was cool to see, just the progression of his understanding of us and us of him, and how it led to success was cool.
Is he still coaching girls in the soccer's program?
That's a great question. I'm not even sure. I haven't been back, which is bad, but I haven't been back there in a while. So yeah.
Kind of tough amidst the circumstances.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, so maybe that's a good sort of jumping off point to close things down. Let's assume there's a season next spring. Maybe you'll come back and chat with us a little bit again. It was really good chatting with you. You seem like you've got a lot to say. We could chat for a while.
For sure. I'll definitely.
I mean that in a nice way.
Okay, good.
She is the first guest that hasn't sent us anything, Ben, for our studio. So.
Oh, that's a good point.
Good job.
I haven't sent you anything. I need to send you something.
So if you listen to our previous episodes, we hassle people that come into our studio that don't bring anything, like a shirt or a scarf or something.
So you're at a disadvantage because you haven't listened to any episodes and you're being interviewed over Zoom. Yeah.
Oh geez. Okay. Well, I'll have to send you guys some stuff from once I get back to Houston. I'll make sure to make it happen.
Right on.
Perfect.
There we go.
All right. Well, we really appreciate your time today.
Thank you guys.
Thanks,
I appreciate it too.
Thanks.
Stay safe. Take care.
You too. Okay. Have a good one.
Bye.
All right, Blake. That was a pretty fun little interview. I enjoyed that. I think it would probably she might be a fun repeat guest here in the future.
I think I would agree, Ben. And we caught her at a good time, just coming off the NWSL Cup win. So she's like got the top of the world right now.
Buzzing. Gotta believe it, right? So what do you think? What's next, Siebes?
Well, I'm just going to be checking our mailbox for the Houston Dash gear every day.
That's for sure. That and checking our DMs to see if anybody has some good suggestions for interviews they'd like to hear or other segments they'd like to hear. We're always open to that conversation, aren't we?
Absolutely.
If you haven't yet, maybe get out and play a little soccer on the mini pitch. The Birdland mini pitch is looking pretty hot right now. Pleasant Hill's done as well. Shout out to Pro Iowa and Musco for their involvement in our project with that. I don't know if the timing of this is such that we're not really going to talk about it in the interview or beforehand, but if you're still listening, definitely go kick it around.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's ultimately the reason why we've kind of been slow on the podcast. We've been spending quite a bit of time on some other things, but
that's right.
We're going to see if we can do it all at once now. We'll find out.
Yep. Well, let's, it's hopefully it's a little easier than juggling is for me, because obviously it's a challenge sometimes.
Speaking of that, if you want to know what Ben's talking about, check us out on TikTok, as well as the State Fair on our YouTube channel. There's a State Fair video from State Fair 2019 of Ben juggling and then having to catch it. So I don't want to let everybody know exactly what happens, but take a look. YouTube channel, search Kick It Forward, and then TikTok, kick.it.forward. And then Ben, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. Do you remember our Twitter?
Let's go. Twitter is at kick_forward. Facebook is at kickitforwardIA, and Instagram is kick.it.forward. Blake loves to keep our handles consistent. That's what we're all about here at Soccer Talk, consistency.
Speaking of consistency, we'll talk to you guys in a week from now.
Let's hope we get that figured out.
Absolutely.
All right, bye.